I haven't made a video recently. There's so much to talk about and the world is distracted by events potentially outside our control. Meanwhile, I've been part of an interfaith group in Cape Town, South Africa for decades, and we were having fantastic relationship, really building trust, compassion and kindness towards each other. All of that seems to have ended in the last few months because of people trying to solve a problem that cannot be solved in South Africa. What South Africans should be doing is opening their hearts to each other and letting each other say what needs to be said. There's two sides of the Kabbalistic tree of life. The one side has got compassion, the other side has got judgment. And right now there's way too much judgment and not nearly enough compassion. And there needs to be a balance between judgment and compassion. I wish that there was an easy answer. All I know is that people on one side of the equation are sending me messages, and when I reply and I say, well, what about this? Or have you considered that? Or this picture's been taken out of context? Or have you looked at this? I get nothing. Just get more of the same. I don't get dialogue. I get judgment. I want dialogue. I'm lucky I'm Jewish and I'm Buddhist. My wife is Christian and Buddhist. We've got so many friends of so many faiths. We are burning to talk to each other. We are burning to say what's on our mind in a context where we're not going to be judged. Where if you look at this piece behind me from Maimonides, the Rambam, about charity. Charity is about giving people the benefit of the doubt. It's about being compassionate. It's about being understanding. Here we are in the South African melting pot, the place that we live and stay in and love, when it would be so much easier to live in different other countries. Yet, those of us that believe in South Africa, that came back in 94, 95 and 96 and built lives and homes and love and community here in South Africa, and just want everybody to be able to have their say in a kind and generous way, which is the South African way. The South African way that started with Mandela and Sisulu and so many others is a way of deep listening, deep caring. Those people that are judging, that are saying it's got to be like this, they're not really South Africans in the spirit of Mandela, in the spirit of the people that were at Lily's Leaf Farm all those decades ago, in the spirit of people who fought against apartheid. Those people were Christian and African tribal religions and Jewish and Muslim and so many others. There were different colors, white, black, colored, Asian. We all fought against apartheid. And now we have words like genocide and apartheid and proportional and other words being used incorrectly to direct us, to make us bring our worst side to the fore. Make us bring judgment into the equation and not compassion. At the extreme end of judgment is darkness and evil. the extreme end of light, of compassion, is a light so bright, if you look at it, you go blind. And there's a happy place in the middle, a balance. And we are imbalanced right now. A Jew and a Muslim and a Christian got together to start a book club meeting. It was beautiful. It's currently on hold because people are saying horrible things. People are judging. They're not saying, let's get together. And it's not an hour conversation. It's a 5-day conversation. We need to be able to get together for 5 days. And everybody must have their say. We're in South Africa. We're not in the Holy Land. We're in South Africa. We need to make peace in our hearts in South Africa with each other. And if we do that, we will send these positive energies into the world and we will make peace in other parts of the world. That's a guarantee. But if our families are falling apart and our communities are falling apart and people aren't speaking to each other, then where are we? On Pesach, Passover, we have the table set and there's an extra place for Elijah. It's for the unknown guest who comes and sits at our table. That unknown guest could be our son or our brother, or our mother or our father or our cousin or our friend. They're unknown because we're not giving them the time to say what needs to be said and we're judging them. We're taking their words out of context in this new world where everybody wants everything in a minute. Everybody wants everything in a 140-character tweet. The world's problems are not going to be solved by a 140-character tweet or a 1-minute monologue. And where are we in South Africa as South Africans? And where are we going? And why are we moving apart instead of moving together? Where is our rainbow nation? Where is our light to the nations? Where are different people getting together to have in-depth conversations, looking at our future and seeing where we need to go? Where is that? Why are there people marching and demanding death for these people? We're in a melting pot of people. Nobody owns the land. We're here temporarily. I bought this land from someone who bought this land from someone who bought this land from someone who bought this land from someone. It's a difficult scenario to know who owns the land. It's a difficult scenario to know who is the rightful owner of land that might have been farmland or desert. Who knows? I don't know. But if we don't discuss it, we just end up in a situation which I spoke about before, envy, where I just want what you have and I just come and take it. And that doesn't lead to compassion. That just leads to more wars and more violence. And South Africa is already a very violent society. It's already a place with 25,000 murders a year. If there's 25,000 murders, there's violence and there's robbery and there's rape and there's all kinds of other things going on. And my Zohar, my ancient book of Kabbalah, says that if someone rapes someone else, they cannot go to heaven. It cannot be forgiven. It's a premeditated, violent act of taking something that can never be returned. So, there's so much to talk about. But right now, talking is being shut down by people making comments about things they know nothing about. I want my world back, my world where I could sit down with my Christian and Muslim friends, my black friends, my colored friends, my Jewish friends, my friends from my synagogue, my friends from the mosque. I want those days back. I want to believe that 20 years of work hasn't gone down the drain because of events on the 7th of October in a land I don't live in. And of course, I do yearn for Jerusalem. Why? It's an ancient concept. It's an ancient concept of peace and love and togetherness and brotherhood. But I see my task in South Africa. I don't see my task there. I thought this would be a quick video on this Christmas weekend. And it's quite funny, on Christmas Day, there were going to be 6 of us having lunch. 5 Jewish people, 1 Christian person. A friend of mine's a Christian lady. She's having 18 people for lunch. 8 of them are Jewish. It's fantastic. But we need to allow for everybody to be themselves, and yet not to take what doesn't belong to us, and to respect the culture we live in. There's enough closed cultures, dark cultures. People like that kind of thing. Be my guest, go live there. If you don't want women to have equal rights as men, choose a country where women don't have equal rights as men, go live there. If you don't like the LGBTQ plus community, then go live in a country that hates those people. If you don't want people to wear costumes on the beach and show their beautiful bodies because you might jump to all kinds of weird conclusions, then choose a country where everybody's covered up. If you don't like there to be Christian schools and Jewish schools and African tribal tradition schools and healing schools in your community, then go to a country that don't have those things. But why change my country, which allows all of those things in this rainbow nation? Why come here and try to live your life here? Why not come here and join this beautiful society with open beaches? And now there's a big fire in the South Peninsula in Cape Town, a number of fires, burning out of control. And like I've said so many times, what nature does is a mirror of what humans do. There are fires burning out of control, but we have brains. And if we can put out the fires in our brains, and if we could be together, then those fires in nature are going to go out. There are parasites in nature. We add another chemical to our body. Instead of getting rid of the chemicals, we've got 10,000 man-made chemicals in our environment. We have a problem, we make another chemical. Imagine if we got rid of 5,000, or even 5, and then 10, and 20. Imagine if we got rid of chemicals instead of adding more chemicals. I don't know how this is going to end. All I know is every day when I wake up, I know that God's got a mission for me today. My mission is kindness and generosity and compassion and caring. And I know that my biggest problem in life is that I'm too caring. I really care. I really am ethical and honest and kind and generous. I really care. I really want us to sit around the table and observe each other's customs and be happy with them. I don't believe that any of our leaders, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, peace be upon him, had evil in their hearts. Buddha. so many Hindu gods, so many people in South Africa, such as Nelson Mandela and Greta Mutwa, Florence Nightingale, so many other, Ellen Suzman, and so many other people who had peace in their hearts, but who saw the fires of the world burning bright, but who weren't prepared to give up, and who said, we need to be charitable to each other. We need to give each other the benefit of the doubt. I don't know how to solve the problem. I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a scientist who believes in God, believes in blessing, studied Kabbalah, studied Judaism, studied Buddhism, studied Christianity, studied Islam, studied so much, and yet feels like I know so little. But I know that there's a divine spark in each of us, and each of us need to bring ourselves to the fore. Each of us need to take responsibility for ourselves and our communities. Stephen Covey says, we start with dependence on our parents, then we get to independence as teenagers, as young adults, and then we should work to interdependence, where we are interdependent on each other. We all breathe the same air. The air is recycled on Earth. The food is recycled. We all eat the same food. We all drink the same water. Our blood is all the same color. We all have hearts. We all have teeth. We all have noses. 99.9% of what we have is exactly the same. And yet we focus on the tiny differences in each of us instead of focusing on the incredible, amazing, life-giving universe that's within each of us. Trillions of cells working together. I'd like to ask you to listen to your heart. Do you want to go out and kill people, murder them because of their beliefs? Why don't you just pray to your God? Pray to my God. Hopefully they're the same God, but if they're not, fine with me. Pray for your God to intervene. Your God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, as is mine. And I can pray to my God, and you can pray to your God, and we can pray to our God for our God to make the change that we want to see everywhere, and to make the change we want to see in ourselves. And then we can go out there and act on that message, but not tell people what they need to do, but rather let God do that, and rather go out with compassion and peace and kindness and generosity and caring, and hold each other in our arms and say, I'm sorry. In my life, I have had relationships with people which haven't gone well, and when I've gone to say I'm sorry, I get shouted at from a dizzy height. And so there are many people I've stopped doing that with, and it hurts me and it pains me. It pains me that I can't talk to those people because they judge me. It pains me that they don't have compassion for me. They can treat me as a silly child. That's fine, let them do that. But if it takes me 10 years to understand what they're telling me, then it takes that amount of time. And it ends well. I'd like us to listen to each other. I'd like us to give the benefit of the doubt to each other. I'd like us to be compassionate to each other. I'd like us not to use loaded words because they're just one word. They don't explain every situation. I'd like us to be compassionate to each other. I'd like us not to judge each other. I'd like us not to jump to conclusions. I'd like us to give each other the time we need to be who we are. I'd like us to be who we are and to allow other people to be who they are. As long as we're not invading each other's space, as long as we're not taking each other's wives, as long as we're not taking each other's children, as long as we're not leading people into slavery, as long as we're staying away from temptation, then perhaps we will be okay. So, Jewish people have just had the festival of light, Hanukkah. Christian people this weekend are celebrating Christmas. That's what's happening in the world right now. We need to allow that. We need to say, wow, there are so many fabulous customs. There are so many fabulous customs. But my God, the God that I pray to, is a compassionate, loving, kind, generous God. Yes, there were wars in the Old Testament, the Torah, the Tanakh. Why weren't they taken out? Because they're there to teach us what can go wrong in society. Things went wrong. They weren't removed. So many histories have been rewritten. Today we were discussing two different versions of the same history, taught in two different ways to two different peoples over lunch. Both sides thinking they're right. Both sides being unaware of the other side's pain. When I was in England in the early 1990s, I worked with a man from Korea. He didn't know about the European Holocaust. He knew about the Japanese and the Asians and the Chinese, what happened in his part of the world. Didn't know what happened in my part of the world. And this difference brought us together as close friends. And we're still friends all these years later. We were in London at the time. Today I'm in Cape Town and he's in Seoul. If only we could find a way for the three wise men to just come and say, I bring you a gift. I bring you a healing. I bring you a light. I bring you a listener. I bring you compassion.